Are you ready to transform your normal e-commerce business into one that experiences exponential growth year after year using online advertising? If so, this show is for you. Me and my guests will show you how you too can grow your e-commerce business to 7 or even 8 figures so you can go on more luxurious vacations, spoil yourself and your family, say yes to more opportunities, and become financially free so you never have to worry about money again. Welcome to the E-commerce Performance Marketing Show. How's it going, guys? Welcome to the E-commerce Performance Marketing Show, and I've got two incredible guests, not just one, but two incredible guests. I've got AJ Yager and Meaghan Connel here, and they're coming from one of the best analytics softwares you can get for your e-commerce business. I'll let them tell you all about it. I'm really excited to dive in here. We're going to talk about something super fundamental that's going to be super impactful for you and your e-commerce success. So let's dive in. Guys, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having us. We're excited to be here.
Always fun to hang out with you.
Definitely. Well, why don't you guys tell the audience about yourselves, like how you guys got started, how you guys met even, what you guys do now, and what you're excited about today.
Yeah, sounds good. We'll start with where we started, and then we'll talk about how we met, and then go from there. I used to own a digital marketing agency, and we built funnels similar to what you guys do, like build different types of funnels for companies, whether they are selling a physical product or a digital product. We never drove traffic. We were just simply like, hey, let's build out something that's really going to grow and expand for our clients. But we were very data driven in what we did. Now, this is 5-6 years ago, and back then we didn't have any BI tools that we were using. We were in spreadsheet hell, as we call it, which is where somebody's manually extracting all the data from the different components, putting it in an Excel chart, and it's about 2 weeks later than when you want the information, but it was a long process. When you had 25, 30 clients, it's a lot of work. When you got to update clients every single week. So we reached out and looked at our team and what we really wanted to accomplish. And this is kind of when Meaghan came into my life, and we decided to grow that business in a little different way together. And I'll pass it off to Meaghan.
Yeah, so basically we had one of our smartest team members who was just reduced down to report generation, right? He wasn't doing any marketing. He wasn't doing his job. He was just logging into 12 different systems and then just pulling that data out and putting it in a spreadsheet. And we're like, all right, there has to be a better way. It's the 21st century. So that started our research into, data in general. How do you automate it? Then how do you visualize it so that it reduces that human error, number one, but also the human effort and all the wasted resources that you put into this. And so we started researching BI tools just to solve our own internal needs. And so we ended up implementing a BI tool, which was great at the time. It was a fantastic stepping stone to get us acquainted with what's possible. But like most people, your first soiree into a software is usually not your last. And so we ended up outgrowing that really quickly, and then went on to, kind of the enterprise level softwares, where there was no more limitations, where anything we asked of our data, we could get answers from. And once we started doing that, we realized that a lot of these softwares out there are empty boxes when you buy them, just like a CRM, just like a shopping platform, right? So it was totally empty. And without a data scientist or a dashboard engineer, just smart business savvy people couldn't necessarily figure it out on our own. And so what needed to happen is we had to hire an entire data division. So we started hiring these data scientists and architects, and as that grew and we started rolling out our dashboards, what we realized is that was really to solve our external client reporting. And so once we rolled it out to them, it was like the record stopped. It was like everybody was like, well, geez, I've never had my business reported it so accurately and, like AJ was mentioning, in a timely manner. So this is all real-time 15-minute updates. And they're like, well, geez, if you can do this for our marketing department, can you do this for our operations, our inventory, our supply chain, our executive summary, our investor reports? And AJ, being the natural entrepreneur, said yes. And so our small data division became a data agency. And so we just decided in 2015 to shut down the marketing agency and then just be world-class at providing data services. And so that's what we've been doing ever since, is really working with e-commerce brands and helping them get the most leverage out of the existing information that they already have. You've got all of your transactions, you've got all your customer insights. Now, what can you do with this? How can you take action from it so that you can really scale and get it to the point of automaticity in your business where you don't have to be involved in every single minor decision, because it's a formula and it's an algorithm that just works for your company, and you can just kind of print money, because that's really what every e-commerce brand wants to do, is just find that algorithm of success.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. That's really cool. And you guys really made a very shrewd, smart move and pivot, by the way, going from agency to data agency and data company, because data, there's a lot of lucrative opportunities in data. I mean, companies that have data, can do a lot with that. And you're also making a massive impact on e-commerce businesses that utilize, Praxis to be able to get clarity on questions they have in their business. This way they can optimize their results in their business.
Yeah,
well,
and
thank you. Yeah, that was the pivot for us. It was like when we wanted to build a business that didn't have Meaghan and I at the very center of it. We wanted to hire people smarter than ourselves so we could build a company that could really drive impact and serve a lot more people than being a marketing agency. So that was one big pivot. We also wanted to have a less stressful lifestyle, which didn't happen right away. Did it, Meaghan? Like building any business, right? You think, oh, this is gonna be way easier. Yeah, not so much. And then also it was out of necessity. Most of the clients and prospects working with us simply did not know the basic numbers that drive the outcomes of their business. They were like, oh, wow, you know more about my business now than I do. Let's do more of that. And so when companies wanted to work with us, they had great ideas, or they had kind of the creatives like had gut ideas. They were like, yeah, instincts are great, but let's check some data there. Let's look at, well, maybe if we optimize your best performing funnel, instead of going and building something brand new, we could, increase your profits and revenue without going and doing all this other stuff. So we were very smart in that. I think that was what helped us pivot. But we noticed, wow, there's a massive need for this, because at that time it was like big data, right? Big data was up here for enterprise, and it really wasn't affordable for companies doing under $300 million or even under $100 million. So that was that pivotal point that let us say, we're gonna be world class in this right now.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's awesome. Let's take it like way, way back. Yeah, I'm not talking about BC, but I'm talking about before you guys had your marketing agency. Like, how'd you guys even get into the industry?
Into the data industry?
Well, just digital marketing and just, entrepreneurship and, all that.
Well, mine was, man, I've been an entrepreneur since I was 10 years old. I loved business. My grandfather was my best friend and mentor, and he inspired me by giving me books and audio tapes and videos on, people like Tony Robbins, like Think and Grow Rich, like just courses out there to teach entrepreneurship. And so that was my beginning. But I quickly learned that I was a coder like everybody else. I kind of learned like how to code early on, but I didn't like staring at a computer screen. I liked interacting with people. So I noticed that publishing and printing, getting out in books and magazines and like dealing with people was more my forte. And so marketing was a natural choice. My grandfather, I just remember this, my grandfather took me to a Ted Nicholas. Do you remember Ted Nicholas, one of the greatest copywriters back in the day? He had a millionaire maker seminar in Las Vegas, and I was the youngest and my grandfather was the oldest attending. It was awesome. A 3-day like mastermind. And man, I was hooked. Oh, it was an amazing bonding experience. And it was so cool to have that discovered. And I understood the impact that great copy has on sales results. And so that kind of birthed the whole journey of finding digital marketer, the early days with Ryan and Perry, and actually before Perry was even there. So that was my upbringing into it. And then that kind of leads up to when Meaghan and I met. So I'll let her take over from there.
And AJ and his dad actually went to the very first Traffic and Conversion Summit, right?
Oh, that's right. Yeah, in Austin, Texas. It was actually the second one. Yeah, they had like maybe 100 people in there.
Wow, that's crazy.
He's been there.
It's crazy they even had only 100 because now they have like 10,000.
Yeah, it's crazy. Come a long way.
Yep.
Yeah, so AJ's been in this like it's in his blood almost. I'm the opposite. So I'm a very late bloomer. So I came from a family with zero entrepreneurism. Like my goal was just to become a secretary and then work my way up the ladder. Like I had no idea that you could actually start your own business. And then it wasn't until I was in college that I got recruited to go sell encyclopedias door to door. And in order to do that, you kind of have to get in the right headspace and the mind game and all of that. And so I got exposed to, positive mental attitude, a lot of the like Zig Ziglars, all of the what is the Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill, right? So I got exposed there. And then that led me kind of on a unique journey to, be into sales consulting. And then AJ and I met at that time, and AJ was actually my introduction into the whole digital marketing community and into really this whole marketing space, because I was used to dealing with cold calling agencies and companies that were literally still knocking on doors. So old school, one at a time marketing. And so when I met AJ, I was like, I don't really understand specifically what you do. He was like, let me show you. And he had a client that was about to do a launch, had like 500,000 email lists. And he's like, all right, here's what I do. So I built this funnel, here's the different stages. I was like, oh, okay. It's kind of like a sales cycle. You walk them through, you educate them, you overcome objections, and then you close. And so he's got all the numbers pulled up, and he's like, all right, ready, set, launch. And then they sent the email to 500,000 people, and we literally watched everything happen. The open rates, the click-through rates. Then we watched the landing page, and then the sales page, and then the conversion page, and everything just tick, 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 tick. And it was like on that same day was like, over $1 million in revenue. Within a week, it was like 1.5. And I remember being in tears. I was like, it was a watershed moment for me, because I was like, I have been knocking on doors and reaching people one at a time for a decade. And you just reached 500,000 people with a click of a button. And I was like, all right. So I left everything. I left my entire industry behind. And that's when I came to work for AJ at his agency, was so that I could understand, just the true scale of what the internet means. And, it sounds odd to say in a room full of digital marketers, but it was really eye-opening to me. And then since then it's looking at then not only how can we reach those people, how can we let them convert, but then also how do we optimize our relationship? Then how can we maximize that customer's lifetime value? How do we optimize our affiliates so that we can serve those people better, because it costs so much to acquire these customers? What can we do to nurture and retain them and reduce our churn? And so it's been fascinating to see the entire life cycle, and not only just with, acquiring the customer, then converting the customer, but then everything afterwards.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love both your guys' origins into where you're at today. I mean, AJ, that was awesome that your grandfather was your best friend and really inspired you and led you into this direction. See, for me, I feel like that's really special, because my grandfather, unfortunately, he just passed away recently. And I was very close to him, and I didn't have entrepreneurship, but it just reminded me of my bond with my grandfather. And I know that anybody watching this can also relate to that too, because we've all had bonds to father figures in our lives. And that's really incredible that, your grandfather led you to where you're at today. And that also is something that people can look at to inspire themselves to lead their children, whether they have them now or not, into entrepreneurship as well in the future. So I really loved hearing that from you. And then Meaghan, it's cool that you came from outside of this bubble and you broke into this bubble. And that just shows that anybody listening or watching this can also do the same, because you've done it. And so if someone's watching or listening to this and they want to get into e-commerce, it's totally doable, totally possible. Anybody can do it. So that's really awesome.
Yeah. Thank you for pointing those out. And I gotta say, Meaghan has, she is so wicked smart. She has picked up this the marketing side, the digital marketing side, but her ability to see numbers and patterns, we're both data driven, but there's different ways to think about data. And I want to speak to everybody out there who's not a numbers wit, who didn't, who probably failed math class or didn't do as well as I did. Meaghan's the opposite. She can be in the numbers and make magic happen in there, but there's also a relationship to numbers that can be exploded from another perspective. So when you hear data and you hear these numbers, like numbers of your business, you just glaze over it, that's okay. But the thing is, it's not going to go away. It's a necessity to understand your data now to have a competitive edge. It's a necessity. But I just wanted to talk to any fear that anybody might have out there. You don't have to be exactly a savant with numbers like Meaghan.
Yeah. And that's the thing is so AJ's very right brain creative, your typical entrepreneur who doesn't like to be bogged down into the details, right? But in order for him to grow and scale a business and an organization, he has to know what's working and what's not working, right? And data is not just ones and zeros. It's not just math and science. It's information. That's the bottom line. Data is just information. And if you think about two people and one of them is more informed than the other, who's going to win? And in today's day and age, unfortunately, that's the competitive advantage. It's who knows more. Not only knows more about your business, but also about your customers, also about the market, what's happening in the world today, and how that's impacting your specific business and your specific clients, and what specific copy they'll respond to, and what specific, right? Like how to reach them. So information is king right now. And especially, I mean, up to this point, it's been the wild, wild west. We didn't have all these governors in town. And so we didn't have, GDPR. We didn't have the CCA. Like we didn't have all of these things around PII and shutting down how much data we can collect. So up to this point, we've had a really easy ride with information. Moving forward, it's not going to be that way. And so the people who understand not only the value of information, right? Because there's a lot of brands that we work with where, from the get-go, everybody thinks I need a marketing department and I need a marketing budget. They don't necessarily think I need a data budget, right? So we work with companies that come out of the gate saying, I don't even know why this is important to me, and I don't know why this could help me. And it's the people who come in and say, I know exactly that this will help me. They're the ones who will, be head and shoulders above them, right?
Yep.
We were at a mastermind once, and this guy came up and he was like, oh yeah, I'm on my third business doing over 75 million. He's like, when I started my third, he said, before I hit $1 million in annual revenue, I already had 2 data scientists, because I knew that I needed to understand what was working and what wasn't working. Because marketing is worthless if you're just throwing spaghetti at the wall and seeing what sticks,
Absolutely.
So yeah, to touch on AJ's point, it's like, you don't necessarily have to be in the numbers, but you have to know what's going on.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, this is a great segue actually into maybe a case study. Do you guys have an e-commerce company that is in your clientele, that uses your software, that has seen like a tremendous impact that you can speak to with specifics? This way the audience can hear about how much of an impact the data can have to their success.
Yeah, we've got a bunch. AJ, you want to talk about the funnel one?
The funnel one, which one specifically?
Jeremy Reeves.
Jeremy, yeah, sure. That'll be a great starting point. And just to be specific, it's not just software. It's actually like data services, data as a service, where it's
nice.
the software, which is just like an Infusionsoft or whatever. There's specific softwares that need to be used in BI, which is business intelligence. But then there's the people that actually have to build all this stuff and make it possible. We had a client come to us who was looking for their true lifetime value. So they were selling a digital product on the front end, like an information product, and they had upsells that were physical products. They were able to get their funnel to work on retargeting from Facebook ads, but they couldn't get it to convert up front. It just wasn't, the numbers are not working out. Now, as you know, and probably a lot of listeners know, there's a lot of time, energy, and money invested in building out a whole funnel before you even know that it really works, right? So they were like, look, we spent a lot of money on this. We need to get this to work. They thought that their lifetime value was, what was it, Meaghan?
We'll just say
I think
$50.
they thought it was like $50, let's say. And they were like, we think this is it. So we want to hire your team to help us make sure the tracking and the data is going to confirm that. Well, after we did our digging, which was a lot of work on the tracking side and the data side, we discovered that they were actually able to spend a lot more than that. I think it was worth like $62, let's say. So they thought they were worth 50, and they were only spending up to a certain cap so that they weren't, going too out of pocket up front. But when they realized, wow, they can afford to spend a lot more money, that's $12 more, then they changed their cost per acquisition by only $5 in their ad spend. And within 2 weeks, they were able to go from trickling of like 12 to 15 sales a day to 350 sales a day.
Wow.
Because of knowing that they could actually afford to acquire more of a customer. Now, Ryan Dice, digital marketer, they all say those who are able to acquire or pay more to acquire customers is going to win. Right. So they just that a little bit of that $12 difference allowed them to change their CPA that quickly and see a significant difference. Whereas on the flip side, they could have cut that funnel and wasted all that money and never known the opportunity. And then we're talking like probably hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars of profit that unlocked on their funnel. And then they went and did that to all their other funnels. What is our true LTV? What do the numbers really mean? And Meaghan can go into more details than that, but hopefully that helps as a case study to get started.
Yeah, no, that's incredible. They started at how many sales, and they ended up at 350, I believe it was.
They were like
12 to
12 to
15
15 daily, and they'd been at that for like 3 months, and they were ready to cut this funnel entirely. So they got up to 350 within that month, and then within 3 months they were at 650 sales, and then it kind of averaged back out to that 350 mark. But that's just one, and that was just around like one KPI. It was just understanding the ratio of their customer acquisition cost to their lifetime value. We have other e-commerce brands where their main focus is more on, like international tariffs and understanding the duties and taxes around things, because they have an international shipping regime basically, and all of these things impact their COGS, right? Another big thing that we have to focus on is understanding your actual cost of goods sold, and not just as an overarching number, but also on a per SKU, per unit basis, right? Because there are different clients that will order a much bigger package. Well, doesn't the shipping per customer then go down, right? Or the cost per unit, right? And so finding out those actual specifics so that you can understand how you should bundle your products makes a big difference as well. And there's a big tipping point there where you can optimize your sales and optimize your AOV based on what it's actually going to cost you, right? You can offer discounts on the front end, right? So we have a company based out of Australia that's literally all we do for them is just look at every single new country that they're adding in, review like what the duties and tariffs are, look at their shipping, all of those things, and aggregate it all together, right? And then we've got other e-commerce brands. There's another one I just wanted to mention. Finance, right? We've got a lot of e-commerce brands that are trying to raise capital, right? Mm-hmm. And they're looking at VCs and they're sending out these investor reports non-freaking stop. And a lot of times, actually, we talked to a brand who literally said, they're doing over 45, 50 million in annual sales. They might be closer to 60. And they said they're looking at capital, and when the investors ask for these reports, they just send them access to the database. They're like, you guys figure it out. We don't know our numbers, right? We don't know what we're worth. We don't know what our customers are worth. You guys can help us figure this out. And guess what? That's not going to work, right? And so a lot of times what we'll do is we'll take all of these systems and aggregate it together to show a snapshot and a business health report, right? What are we worth? What is our company? What does our company look like? And what are these investors looking for? And how can I present this in a way where they have instant answers and they have it in real time, and they don't have to come to me every month throughout this long arbitration process or long, conversation. They can look at this and see these numbers increasing or these numbers decreasing, and they can have that in real time. So there's a lot of different specific use cases. But man, I think the biggest one, like the easiest place for us to start is just understanding your own client data. What are they purchasing? When are they purchasing? How much are they purchasing? And what are they coming back to purchase, right? What does that customer journey look like? And what does your best customer look like versus your average, right? How can we optimize that to tweak it to make sure that you're capturing as much from these customers as possible?
And knowing where they came so that you can attribute, right, exactly what's working, what's not working from bringing in the quality customers.
Yeah, absolutely. And what you just said, Meaghan, you said what they're purchasing, how they're purchasing, and you said like 4 questions, I think, or statements there. I'd love to turn that back to AJ and turn that into actionables that e-commerce listeners or watchers can like see how data can be used to take actions to get better results in your e-commerce business.
Well put. So let's just start at the very, very beginning. Now, we don't have visuals right now, but let's just kind of imagine a ramp up from the left bottom corner to the top right corner. This is the data maturity spectrum, and it doesn't matter about revenue at all. Your company could fall anywhere on these 4 buckets, basically. But the most important thing that we need to talk about first is data collection. That means tracking. so that you can ask the first, it was kind of the fifth one I added on to Meaghan's, but it's like, okay, where are our best customers coming from? We need to know specifically which marketing efforts we are putting out there are actually working, instead of just, like you said, throwing stuff out there and seeing what happens. And a lot of people just go right to spending money on ads when that may not be the best thing to do in the beginning, right? So a lot of people can burn through money very quickly. So data collection, tracking. That means that on every single marketing piece you do, blog content, advertise, ads, any social media post, literally anything needs to be tracked with the UTM code. That UTM code is free to do. I don't have necessarily time to go deep into it, but it's like everything has a specific code that tracks specifically down to a specific, even emails, like subject lines, actual ad numbers, or the ads headline. Like, we need specificity. It's all about details here. And so the more tracking links that you have out there, the better we're able to collect and say, oh, well, it was Facebook versus Google versus our Instagram account, whatever that may be, to show those channels. So that's first and foremost of where are they coming from. This is a really, really important part. Do you want to dig into that a little bit more, or do you want to go on?
No, I think it's great. And I'm pretty sure I've mentioned UTMs in the show before, but I might have to do a remedial so this way people understand what UTMs are and the value and the power of those, especially when you stack that with something like, Praxis or Google Analytics, et cetera, to be able to like really cross-reference, that data with goals that they're trying to accomplish in their business.
Yeah. And I know we've been throwing around a lot of acronyms, but UTM stands for Urchin Tracking Mechanism. It was simply a company that 15, 20 years ago, Google had bought and purchased. And that's just what it was called, was Urchin Tracking. So all it is a very specific link with a bunch of parameters that allow you to label and tag it inside of a link, and it just passes all the way through, hopefully, in your e-commerce software. Most of the big ones do.
It just allows you to like precisely track where your results are coming from on various levels. Whether it's campaign, medium, whether it's a specific content, piece or audience, especially using it with like ad sets. They're powerful. So it's definitely something that every e-commerce business owner should be using.
Every single one. Yep, for sure. And it's not an option at this point. Like the more and more people are starting to realize the power of this. And even if you screw it up 50% of the time, it's better than not using them at all. So this is definitely worth digging into, and we can go into that even more later on.
Let me interrupt really quickly, because going back to your question, Josh, if we're looking at our customers, and our best customers, and we're trying to find out where they came from a data perspective, if we go in there and we say, okay, so you have 10,000 customers, or even just 1,000 customers, and 500 came from unmapped or from direct, right? Then it's worthless, right? And so a lot of times what we'll do is we create our own feedback loops, right? So we'll ask a question, we'll get an answer, and that question or that answer might not be what you want to hear, right? But what it does is it allows you to figure out what that next step is. So if you ask the question and you don't have the data, it leads you to the next step, which is we need to fix our tracking. Okay? Mm-hmm. So that's what AJ is saying is, a lot of times people come in and they're like, well, I don't have enough data. And that's fine. We can work with the data that you do have. And then as you start seeing this in a visual format, what it does is it creates motivation for the team to be cleaner with the data, to implement better tracking, right? And so it's okay to start without, all of the data in the world. That's okay. You're not going to start that way. You're going to get incrementally better over time. It's like Kaizen, continual improvement. And so you might start out, Kaizen all the way. And so you might start out with inaccurate data, or data that is just like a huge chunk that doesn't seem accurate. And that's okay, because then you can know we need to go take action from this. Because everything that we do with data, if it's not tied directly to action, it's worthless. If it's a nice to know, screw it. It needs to be something that you can take action from. So number one is, if you have inaccurate data or if you have reports that seem wrong, then we need to fix our tracking, right? So that's one piece of action that we can take. Another piece of action we can take is, once we see the data, and let's say it is tracking accurately, right? And you're able to say without a shadow of a doubt that customers come from my Facebook ads versus my Instagram ads, or this specific campaign are worth 2 times as much as over here, then there's simple actions you can take from that as well. Simply reallocating ad spend, right? So each one of these metrics that we create for our clients, we want to make sure that it's tied to an action as well. So now going back, I know AJ was talking about the data maturity spectrum, but that's kind of the foundational piece is tracking. And then he's getting into the next one.
Yep. That was good.
That was really good. Thank you, Meaghan, for clarifying that too. The next one would be, what was the next one?
Automation.
You said automation. Yeah. I mean, you were saying what, where, like all that kind of stuff. So how do we tie that into automation?
Well, automation, can I chime in here? Because
yeah.
I mean, it's simply this. It's just simply saving people the time that they would spend on filling a bunch of spreadsheets, which is frustrating in the amount of time it could take to do that. Because if it's automated, e-commerce business owners can really use that time and allocate their time towards other areas of their business where they can make an impact, or they could just have less time working in their business and more time to enjoy their lives, which we know how that really alleviates the stress that comes from business, having some balance. But it's also really hard to control that when you're a driven e-commerce business owner and you're really trying to make it happen in your life.
Yeah. And to compound on that, there's a saying, compound interest is to your time, or is to your money what automation is to your time, right? So just like one more time. Saying, so compound interest is to your money like automation is to your time. Yeah. So if this is a perfect example. So we had a client who said literally every single month, they spend 30 hours at the end of the month putting together all of the reports, all of the numbers so that they can understand what happened, what went right, what didn't go right, so that they could present it to everybody and then they could analyze it and go take action. Okay.
Wow.
30 hours. 30 hours a month instantly gone, where you no longer have to have the man hours working on that. And now that's not only 30 hours that you're saving money, it's also compounding because now that time is being spent with those same intelligent people analyzing the data, saying, now what? Or why this? And asking secondary questions or tertiary questions rather than just that primary question of, well, what happened? Well, screw that. Nobody wants to know what happened. That is never going to help you. You have to know why. You want to know how. You want to know what can we do to make that happen in the future? And then how can we pull these levers so it's predictable every single time? And as soon as you're able to get that automaticity built in, then you can skyrocket because you no longer have this organizational waste.
Yeah. Wow. Everything you said is super powerful. So I know we're getting kind of close to the end here. And I just want to be respectful because Meaghan, I know you've got only a limited amount of time. And it's too bad because you just dropped a bunch of value with what you just said too. Like, I feel like the IQ in the room just went up like 10 times. But I want to go into the last part here just because I want to be respectful of your time. And I also know you guys have an incredible opportunity for people watching this. And I want to make sure you guys have plenty of time to go over that. This way really people can continue this journey of improving their use of data within their business, right?
Definitely. So, and like AJ was saying, it's kind of a spectrum, right? You don't eat, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time, right? Everybody gets really afraid of the whole big data thing because you think it's going to cost you millions and you think it's going to take 3 years to implement. And really, that's not the case. Every day things are getting faster and cheaper, and it's actually available to small companies. Like we work with companies that are pre-revenue or startup mode that are sub 5 million in annual revenue, right? So you can leverage big data at, an SMB level. So one of the core foundational pieces, like we talked about, is tracking, making sure that as you're collecting data, it's accurate and it's usable, even if you're not going to do anything with it now. You might not have the team, the budget, or the bandwidth to analyze or take action from it. But guess what? In 2 years or in 2 months, when you do hire somebody to go through it, we can't analyze anything if you don't have the data. And so AJ and I are putting together kind of a whole webinar on this. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, I was going to add in there, like what specifically this means is those of you who have Google Analytics installed, but it's not installed professionally and you're not using UTMs and it's not set up with the advanced tracking, like that's just low hanging fruit that you need to be taking advantage of. That doesn't mean just putting the code on the page. That means you literally have to set up this amazing tool that is free in the right way so they can serve you later on. Doesn't mean you need to jump in, like Meaghan said, into Google Analytics and become a Google Analytics expert. Not what we're saying, but the importance of getting it set up right. As number two is the importance of setting up the softwares you're using. For example, the Shopify's, the Infusionsoft's, the BigCommerce's, whatever you're using. Out of the box, it works pretty well, and you probably set it up or had an agency set it up, but making sure that all of the values are being pulled in. Extra data is being saved somewhere so that later on someone can work that, a data scientist, an architect, a team like ours can go through that data and make it make sense. So that's really what specifically we're talking about when we're talking about the tracking side. I just wanted to throw that part in there.
Yeah, no, that's great. I mean, and let the audience know too, like, you know, when they take those actions and they implement everything that you're talking about, how it's going to help them with some of the common challenges they have in their e-commerce business when it comes to seeing where the results are coming from, being able to scale effectively, being able to cut costs. You know, if you could maybe point out some of those immediate benefits they're going to see by going through this process and implementing some of that stuff on the foundational level in their e-commerce business, that'd be great.
Yeah. So I'd say one of the biggest things is attribution. If you cannot attribute a customer back to where they came from, and not just one piece of their touch point, right? They could have been touched 12 separate times by 4 different efforts and 4 different teams, right? They could have come in through an ad, then be retargeted, then join your email list, had 12 separate emails, and then they followed you on Instagram, and then they clicked on a sponsored post, right? If you don't understand that entire journey, then you don't know what's working. You have zero idea what top of funnel, middle of funnel, and bottom of funnel implemented techniques are working and not working, and in what order, right? And without being able to understand that, you're going to make pivotal mistakes. You're going to cut an area of spending because you didn't know that it's actually yielding clients 3 months down the line that were responsible for $1 million in sales, because you didn't have clean tracking that associated that customer to their other touch points pre-sales. So this go ahead.
Sorry, just to interject there too. I mean, if this is a new e-commerce business watching or listening to this, it just means that you don't have money or time to waste, and this is going to prevent you from doing so. If you're a seasoned e-commerce business, then what you just said, Meaghan, is absolutely like applicable, because if you're established, you're probably doing numbers like that.
Yeah, and you hit the nail on the head, because people that start out, a lot of times they aren't tracking these things, and so all they have to do, they just keep spending. They keep spending across everything because they don't know how to analyze the data, and they don't know what to do with it. And so it is so important as a beginner. Like, imagine if you just knew right out of the gate what will work and what won't work. You would just do that, right? Instead of trialing and erroring all across the board. So, like, to your point, this is all about decreasing waste and increasing profits. Mm-hmm. That's it.
That's what business is all about.
Yep. That's it.
Yep. So how can someone watching or listening to this, how can they learn more from you guys? Because I know you guys have an incredible free training that you'd like to talk about that is a no-brainer for anybody watching or listening to this.
Yeah, we do. I mean, in this amount of time, we can only talk about like the really high level stuff, but we can nerd on this stuff for days. And we've actually, for the first time ever, we've created this content into a webinar. Usually we're dealing with companies doing over 5 to 10 million a year, and we're having one-on-one sales calls with them. But like now we're saying, look, there's a lot of really great content we want to share so that you can learn the tracking and all the kind of roadmaps that it takes to become more data driven. And so we've put together a webinar, an online training called How to 10X Your Business with Data. And Meaghan and I would be the co-hosts on there, and we want to invite everybody to it because we're going to go much deeper into a lot more of these topics, have Q&A, and actually have visuals to be able to share, so it's a lot easier to think about.
Yeah, because a lot of, just in transparency, a lot of times when we first talk with companies, they're not quite ready for us, right? They've got some foundation that they have to lay before they come and work with us. And so one of the things that we love doing is just educating. And there's a couple tools that we have that you can go and do on your own without even hiring us, that you guys could use and implement in the meantime until you're ready to take action from your data and until you're ready to aggregate and automate it. And so those are the types of things that we want to cover, so that even if somebody's like, man, that sounds great, but I'm 2 years away, here's the roadmap and what you should do in the meantime, the checkboxes of things that you should learn, so that when you're ready, then all of your data is in place and it's clean and it's ready for us.
Yeah, that's awesome. So Where can they go? Like, what's the website URL that people can go to find out more, register for this free incredible training that you guys are putting on?
Yeah, there's a few different ways. It's you can go to our website. It's praxismetrics.com/10x webinar. So Praxis, Praxis, metrics, metrics.com/10x webinar. And that'll take you to the landing page. It's free sign up there. And then there's a couple other ways to do it as well.
Yes, there is. Yes. So if you're listening to this and you're driving, don't go to their website. Okay, focus on driving, and instead just tell CarPlay or whatever you're using, tell them to text 10x to 938-444-8045. That's 10x to 938-444-8045, and you'll get a text back with a link to that free training, so you can go and register for it right after you're done driving, so this way you don't get in an accident. You can also, if you're on Instagram, you can also send me a private message with 10x in that message, and then I'll give you more information about this free training. And this way you can go ahead, you can go to the page, you can check it out, you can register right then and there as well. And if you're on Facebook and you're watching this, you can actually just comment below in the comments 10x, and I'll send you a message that'll help you be able to take advantage of this free training just by you leaving a comment below this video.
Yeah, and to be clear, that's 10, the number 10x, right? Because I guess you can type it in both ways. But yeah,
that's true. That's true. I could set the automation to take advantage of both. But anyway,
cool. Either way, it works.
Yeah, that's a good tip. Good tip. All right, so this is the last part. It was just fun. It's just to close it out on a good note, and so we have a bonus round that we go into with guests, and it's a simple bonus round. I'm going to ask both of you 4 different questions, and you each have to answer each of these questions with only one word.
Ooh.
Everybody always does that.
I'm gonna win.
And then, you know what? We'll turn this into like a. I'll vote on who has the best response. I'm sorry, AJ or Meaghan. I don't know who's going to win here, but I'm going to have to take someone's side here. So don't hold it against me. And guys, if you're watching this, if you're listening to this, feel free to also comment below who your favorite response was as well. So, all right. So the first one is, what caused your biggest entrepreneurship success to date?
Grandfather.
AJ.
Ooh. For family or for love? That's really hard. I'm gonna go with AJ.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah. Okay.
What
point. Advice do you have for other e-com business owners?
Read.
Act.
Act. I was hoping you'd say sell, because I know you've got a sales background, but you know what? I would still go with Meaghan, because acting and just taking action is huge, and people need to take action after this episode. They need to go register for that free training. Okay. How would you describe yourself?
Caring.
Why is she laughing? That's not good.
I don't know.
I was laughing at my answer because my instant was perfect. So maybe conceited.
Oh, Meaghan.
Maybe conceited.
Wow. I'm going to go with Meaghan.
Wait, that's all right.
It was honest.
Hey, if I don't tell her that she's perfect, I mean, you got to acknowledge a woman saying that she is something, right? If you don't acknowledge that, there you go. It's gone.
Smart man.
Reverse sexism right there. Nice.
Yeah, I know. Okay, here's a good one. So what do you see in your future?
Ease.
All right.
Profits.
AJ, definitely profits. That one wins. So you guys just tied. That was fun. I don't think we've only had one other guest episode with a couple. So this was fun.
Nice.
Going through this with you guys. Well, if you guys can give the audience one more time that website URL to go to sign up for that free training right after this episode, that'd be awesome. Can you give it one more time?
One more time, guys. We would love to have you come join us. It's going to be a lot of fun, and we love to over-deliver. So you can reach us at praxismetrics.com. Again, Praxis, metrics, metrics.com/10x webinar. That's a 1010x webinar. And we're also on the website. There's plenty of other recommendations, but that one webinar is the one we're going to have live coming up here in just a few weeks. So we really look forward to having everybody. And Josh, this has been super fun. Thanks for having us both on too.
Yeah, it was awesome. Meaghan, my pleasure. It was great meeting you. And AJ, good to see you again as well. And guys, go learn more from AJ and Meaghan. Go to that website, check out that free training, get this implemented into your e-commerce business. As I've always encouraged everybody, you need to take action. And you guys have an incredible free opportunity here to take action on. So go do it. Go do it right now. AJ, Meaghan, thank you so much for being on the show. I truly appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
All right, bye, guys.
Thank you for tuning into the e-commerce performance marketing show. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe, like, and comment with a timestamp of your favorite part and share it with a friend. Until our next episode, here's to you and the success of your e-commerce business.